I can't show her, but she's literally covered in red paint.
So that's not red paint, it's actually my period blood.
Once again, Tash Peterson has found out that her actions have consequences. The serial vegan activist only seems to tarnish her reputation at every turn, ironically leaving normal human morals in the dust, as she's just been slapped with a $300,000 fine for her stupidity, as well as loads more embarrassment. And I think that vegan teacher's daughter has finally been stopped. So hello everyone, welcome or welcome back. I'm Jake Baz, and 2024, it's not really a good year for Tash Peterson. If you don't know her, she's a vegan activist and an OF model that has hit the headlines for years because of her actions. She smashes up restaurants, screams at the top of her lungs the most vile things to people just for simply eating meat. You know, the majority of the population. Promotes her OF by going out in public with a banana as a microphone and talking to a load of children. In my opinion, because children are the only people that she could stand on an argumentative level with. That's a new one to me. And now she's been done in court and fined 6 figures because of the way that she's acting. And I will honestly say for everyone, we're all here for it. If you enjoy the video at any point, please do hit the like button and subscribe if you're not. Helps out the channel a lot. I would love to see you back. And also, we cover a lot of these creatures, so if you're interested, please do. What are you thinking? Subscribe. And I will also just note here that this is not actually that vegan teacher's daughter, but she does get compared to her, and also she identifies herself as the daughter of that vegan teacher, following in the footsteps, which with the way that that vegan teacher comes across, I don't know why you'd want that to be your idol. They've done videos together and looks up to her, so if you haven't seen her before, you know exactly what she's going to be like. But first off to the fine, because she got a ridiculous amount of money thrown at her door, 300,000 nearly, purely for the way that she was acting and what she was doing in public. And Tash Peterson usually is quite open and expletive with everything that she gets thrown at her, like in the courts, things like that, because it only, quote unquote, spreads awareness. And like, yeah, it spreads awareness, but I think it's spreading in the entire wrong way than what she wants it to. And although I've seen little since before, up until this announcement got made, she was flexing the stuff like this here.
Last year, the day before Christmas Eve, I did a protest at a butcher store and poured fake blood all over the glass cabinet. A day later, the police came knocking on my door to arrest me, and they actually wanted to search my house for this piece of evidence.
I wonder why the police were coming to see her. It's not like she's done anything illegal, like, I don't know, maybe just trashing up an entire place. But she's that astounded that she's ended up getting arrested, she has to post a TikTok video about it. And if you're in her camp, can you just explain why you think vandalism's legal? Like, come on.
We do just want to search for one item while we're here that was worn during the alleged offence yesterday.
So now that the court proceedings have been over, I've been convicted with criminal damage and disorderly conduct as a result of that protest. Now I get my evidence back, so let's open it up.
A crime scene evidence locker unboxing. What a weird one to start with. Bear in mind, yeah, this isn't the 300k offence, this is preceding that, so there's even more to come. But I don't think I've ever seen an influencer do a what's in my bag compilation, and it's from a crime scene. Definitely a new one to tick off the list and no one else recreate.
It's my t-shirt. Why was this evidence in the first place? I don't know. There's some evidence here. This was when the butcher actually rubbed his hand on the fake blood that I poured and threw it on my face and obviously all across my shirt. So that's...
This is a tactic that Tash Peterson does. She wears these shirts which are really expletive around certain words, such as a word that's going to get me banned from ad revenue, which is starting with hollow, something that was related to in 1940s Germany. It's quite surprising to me that she thinks a shirt that was at a crime scene could potentially not be evidence. I don't know why that is. She's either a master rage baiter or she's dense.
And we've got some chili sauce here. Tomato. Because there was a guy who watched the protest, then he went into Coles, which was next door to the butcher's, bought some tomato sauce, and when we were leaving the shopping centre, like literally about to get in the car, he threw the tomato sauce all over myself and another activist and all over Jack's car, and then he ran away.
I mean, I don't condone this sort of behaviour, but it kind of was deserved. I mean, you've done something that's like 10 times worse, so a little bit of tomato sauce ain't going to go a long way. And the tomato sauce is vegan as well, so it's even better for you.
And the other activist, Kath, actually confronted him and caught up to him. If you're not vegan, you're an animal abuser and the animal cost. Glad to have my shirt back.
And my main serious problem with Tash Peterson from this sort of stuff is that, well, she's turning away everyone who potentially could be vegan in the future. The way she says stuff in that, like, this is like the worst thing that anyone can ever do, it only adds guilt onto the people who are eating meat and potentially might want to become vegetarian, vegan, that sort of thing. And instead of trying to convert them in like a rational way, which we'll get onto and cover as well, she decides to use this hateful language, which makes everything seem so much more worse and makes someone feel guilty for even having to think about eating a bit of chicken. I do think in the world the best way to actually bring someone over to another side if they're thinking in a stupid way is to rationally explain it to them. But instead of just that, she will just shout at your face, call you a abuser, and then run off. As if you're literally the person who has gone in there, cooked this chicken from live, and then decided to eat it. And this ridiculousness has actually ended up with her getting fined. As I said, $280,000. And her local news channel actually scolded her a little bit and showed her exactly how it is.
Prominent vegan Tash Peterson and her partner will be forced to pay $280,000 in damages after accusing the owners of a vet clinic of eating their own patients and advertising animal cruelty. Footage shows a heated 6-minute confrontation at the Perth clinic over 2 birds in a cage. The couple can be heard defaming the vets in a video posted to the vegan's public social media page, viewed 78,000 times.
$280,000 purely because of a 78,000 view clip. And now, I'm not belittling her on the views, all I'm saying is that worth it? That's a lot of money lost. And yet the whole reason that she had a massive go in this clip was because of apparently they're eating their own patients. A vet clinic. You know where animals, if they're a little bit unwell, they'll go and they'll visit and they'll get a little bit better usually. Yeah, apparently what they're doing is taking the cats and dogs, executing them, and then cooking them up. So she clearly does have quite a bit of smarts to her brain, because that's exactly what happens in every single vet place ever. And this all literally happened because she was saying that the birds were being kept hostage outside of the vet clinic against their own will. Because there were 2 birds that were outside in cages. Literally, just in cages, right? Obviously, a brilliant reaction to something like that. And the reasons why birds shouldn't be allowed in cages is here.
Confining birds in cages is slavery. Here's why. All caged birds were either captured or bred into captivity to be enslaved and exploited for human pleasure. A bird's natural habitat is a far cry from life being held captive in a cage. For example, the 3rd most popular pet in the world, the Australian budgerigar, typically inhabit the wide open grasslands and scrublands of the Australian outback. In other words, they travel very far distances since they are wild animals, and they certainly shouldn't be enslaved in a cage inside someone's home.
Obviously, like I said, the way that she uses her words are ridiculous and really do tarnish the actual reputation of proper vegans. And it stinks. It really stinks. All of it stinks. And yet, you can kind of get it like putting birds in cages is not necessarily a good thing, but, you know, you take them out every day. And also, pets that have been in cages, like birds, they are domesticated, so they are more used to and happy to be in them. As long as you give proper treatment to them, they end up being fine. So for her to jump to the edge of, like, well, they're being terribly treated, well, it doesn't really make sense. And I don't think that she believes what she's saying, but she's gonna keep trying and pushing it because it's more divisive and it gets more attention. So after posting this video, she went and actually did this because this was in 2021, so a while ago, and this has been scheming in courts for a bit. Because after this altercation, which I'll show now, it ends up getting even messier.
Oh, so you're the type of vets that eat your own patients, are you?
Yeah, I do eat meat, but I don't eat dogs and I don't eat cats, and I don't appreciate you pushing your agenda on my personal...
It's just so ridiculous. So because this vet is looking after animals but then also is a meat eater, this is a massive problem, isn't it? And she's turning the idea of, like, this person is just a meat eater to this person is actually holding captive all of these sick animals, ending their beginning, and then actually eating them. It's so stupid. And I'm sure she thinks it's stupid. I'm sure she knows it's stupid, and I think that's why she does it. And it's right for this woman to be seething about it because it is just ridiculous.
I don't appreciate you enslaving animals and forcing them into murder factories.
Animals.
Ring the,
It
ring
is.
the police.
What if they were dogs?
Police.
Yeah, what if
Thank
there
you
was a
very
dog in
much.
there? What if it was a dog or a cat? Just
We
get
need-
outside my cat.
I have a dog in a cage out the back at the moment receiving treatment. Am I it?
And exactly, actually, I didn't even think about that. Like, what? So you keep a dog, like, for example, that's ill, you bring it in, and you put that in a cage. Are you doing the exact same thing? And it's this terribly divisive language which really does cut down the middle. It really annoys both sides of the argument. And it also makes her come across as a fucking idiot. This was a 6-minute confrontation that was posted on her Facebook, and it really didn't end up well for her. Because Tash does this all the time with, like, restaurants, places like that, but vets, like, why are you coming in and doing this to a vets? If anything, it's only tarnishing the reputation of the veterinary clinic, and that's exactly what this medical clinic thought so as well. Because they got their ducks in order, they had a look, they actually started a GoFundMe for defamation action, which ended up reaching $18,000 nearly, so that they could sue her. And well, they did. Even though this got nowhere near the target, they still sued her, and they've come out and they've won. Just to give you a quick breakdown of why they actually did end up suing, if you couldn't see from that clip anyway, it's just putting a terrible name on the actual place. It was due to mainly defamation, as you can see from the GoFundMe, with them saying on Friday an incident occurred which has left several members of the clinic extremely traumatized. Furthermore, this incident, along with defamatory comments and innuendos, has subsequently been published on Facebook to the detriment of our team and our business. Because all these people are doing is trying to run their day-to-day business, looking after and caring for animals, and then you've got someone like Tash Peterson that comes in, has a go at all of them because they've got 2 birds in the cage out the front, and it's embarrassing, and it really does set a bad name and example on social media. And Tash, in this lawsuit, she didn't back down, but she ended up losing. With a headline grabbing, vegan activists have been ordered to pay $280,000 to a vet she accused of eating her own patients. Which again is just such a crazy statement. And no wonder it ended up in the courts with her putting stuff like that out and then screaming it from the rooftops on social media. And partly the reason why Tash ended up going there is because this 2 birds that were in cages, they were also a little bit of a local attraction. Dr. McIntosh had inherited the animals, believed to be around 14 years old when she took over the business. These birds became local attention, with children often visiting the practice to see them and were allowed to fly outside their cage within the clinic. Wow, that sounds like they're really being held against their will, doesn't it? They're going out and enjoying themselves. What? Like they're allowed free will. So what's going on here? This doesn't seem very right, Tash. Dr. McIntosh gave evidence which I accept that they would not be able to survive outside in the wild. The birds are outside their store cage the day that Peterson and Higgs first noticed them. They briefly complained to the receptionist but were told the birds were cared for. Unsatisfied, they returned the next day with Peterson filming a piece to camera outside a clinic in which she accused them of committing not being allowed out against your will. Which is just insane because you know that she saw this, she saw the lights flash in her eyes, she lit up, she was so excited to see how well that she could do with this by posting something like this on social media, and then she went back the next day and tried to harass them even further. The legal team argued that the content was a matter of public interest, but Mr. Quinlan rejected both these defences, ruling that Peterson and Higgs had published defamatory claims. Because yeah, they're saying this sort of stuff against their will. Like, it's ridiculous that she could even come across and say, oh, it's in public interest, when you're just going out and just lying about someone. Almost like actions have consequences. And maybe, Tash, you can learn a thing or two because you've just been diddled in court. And in response to this, Tash really hasn't said much because probably because she didn't want to get in another defamation case with the same people. But she did post this: you can take all of our money, but you will never take away the voice for non-human people. Which, by the way, non-human people is not a real term. A person's a human, so a non-human would just be an animal. It's not a people. We will endure the stress of litigation time and time again. It's nothing in comparison to the abuse and unalivement animals are subjected to because of non-vegans. Which definitely we can sit and we can have a conversation around the rights of doing this sort of thing. Like, how ethical is the meat industry? It's not really ethical. There are a lot of problems within it, and it also is really bad for the environment. But is this the place that we're going to be talking about it by going out and just lying about people on the streets and then posting it on social media? Like, I don't understand how she thinks that by doing one morally irreprehensible thing that she will, equate to doing something positive for the environment and for people. Like, if I break your door and then you come and break my door, but only the door handle, like, both our doors are still broken, aren't they? Both of us have done wrong. So for her to not understand that is ridiculous. And one thing with Tash Peterson is that she does always think she's right, because because also in response she posted this: "The birds were not patients but rather full-time residents. I expressed my concerns which resulted in an altercation/debate with the owners of the clinic who later pursued defamation against us." I don't think you call what we've just seen as a debate really. It's just her shouting at that person and waiting for them to respond for her to just shout again. Two wrongs definitely don't make a right. And then she just digs a further hole for herself. Confining someone in a cage to use as entertainment advertising is keeping someone against their will. It just all sounds fake. It doesn't sound real. It all sounds bullshit. Also, the way that she constantly brings it back to this being a person, it's not a person. The vet who sued me is asking if she is the type of vet who eats her own patients, admitted under oath in the trial that she in fact ate a cow that she had treated. And like, it's not really relevant, is it? Like, yeah, you technically are right by saying that, but that's one instance that happened for an animal which is taken in and reared purely for food purposes. Like, if it were a dog or a cat, I'd probably think that, yeah, you're being right here, but nah, it's a cow. And if vets didn't look after the animals that they eat, well, they wouldn't be looking after cows, would they? Cows would just have to suffer for the rest of their lives. But Tash probably knows this. She's scared of any form of reality. But also with Tash Peterson, there does seem to be a lot more morality that is spinning around, because from Tash's stuff, you would think that she would act as the highest moral integrity. She's Miss Vegan. She cares about welfare. She cares about rights. She cares about activism. So, what's all this then? I've covered it before, but she seems to be a bit weird of her tax returns. And, everyone hates tax, but, it goes towards good things that make a lot of, sense. But she just seems to be fudging it up so she can make even more money from the divisive things that she says. As in a defamation trial, she had her pants pulled down. Tash on OF is the 4% top earners on the platform, and the court was told Miss Peterson earned more than $400,000 in 21 to 22, but declared just $70,000 in business earnings to the Australian tax office. Which, is only 330 grand that you just missing? That's a lot of money of tax which has just, vanished. It's just disappeared. And could it be because you're profiteering and trying to, become a millionaire for doing the stuff you do, and not necessarily because you care about animals that much? That's for you all to tell. Because also, she did this. When her bank statements were mentioned in court, she could only point to one $100 donation to animal charity, the West Australian reported. And I'm not saying that people should be on moral pedestals depending on the amount of money they actually donate to charity, but Tash is a massive vegan activist. Surely, you would think when she's promoting charities all the time and things like this, she probably would, donate more than $100 out of $400k into it. Especially when your entire aim, as you say by yourself, is just so that you can spread the awareness of veganism and the harm of animals. Don't you think donating only $100 to charities in that sort of effect when you could be giving much wider of an acceptance towards it is quite ironic? Also saying that for another tax return, only $130,000 were missing from that financial year. So come on, what are you doing? You're saying that you care about the animals environment, you care about a lot of things, you're an activist, but then you're not even paying your taxes, you're breaking the law whilst doing it. And apparently, despite not being able to point out any more donations, she did say that she used a PayPal account to make donations as well, which surely if you made PayPal donations, you would see that on the receipts, so you definitely would be able to see that. So why can't you get anything for it? It's really weird. But also that some of her payments on her bank statement include receipts of buying a new car, a holiday in Italy, transfer of money to her boyfriend, and a jet ski loan for her father and brother. What I want to know is, what are you actually in for it, Tash? Because it is quite ironic. She never gives alternate recipes. She never really helps out people who maybe want to actually turn vegan. All she does is call people who aren't vegan idiots and turn and walk away. But it's great to see that she has consequences for her actions, but even when she does, she really acts dumb around it, like here.
These so-called consequences that you're referring to only bring more attention to my cause for animal rights and bring more attention to the oppression, abuse and murder happening in the meat, dairy and egg industries. And in fact, non-vegans are going to experience some serious consequences for their actions if they continue to pay for the rape, enslavement, torture, abuse and murder of non-human animals.
Non-human animals. It's hilarious. And also consequences. What do you mean consequences? What consequences are coming? Everything's a threat. Everything that she says is a threat that's aimed towards you. You're the problem. She's at the moral high ground despite all the other things that I've mentioned. And everything is your fault. God forbid you ever eat meat. It's all just so embarrassing, and it only turns people away. Especially when, like, let's talk about it here. Like, what would you think if you had someone corner you like this and tell you that you are doing wrong in this sort of way? Personally, for me, I would think that this person's ignorant and rude, and I would never look at what they're saying again. And she's definitely not one for having usual scandals. Well, she is. It happens all the time. And another thing that happened recently with her is she got kicked out of an actual hotel chain. And the reason why is because of exactly what she's doing. She's a massive problem, and this business does not want her anywhere near because she's gonna cause a problem. So what does she do in response to this? Well, she causes another problem.
So we just received a knock on the door. We've just arrived at the Crown Towers Hotel, and they've come knocking on the door to say that I've been permanently banned from Crown since, what was it?
2020.
September 2021, and they're only just serving it on me now, 3 years later.
It's probably because you haven't been there in 3 years, Tash. It's pure Karen from her, innit? It's pure Karen. She goes out there, she harasses people in public and also in private places, and then posts it on her social media, and she expects businesses to be happy with her and want them to stay there. Now that is a new one to me.
And so essentially we have to pack our shit up and leave. So we're being kicked out for doing nothing, for giving them our money to stay in a hotel for 2 nights, and now being kicked out.
Apparently your actions don't have consequences because you're on the moral high ground, right? But somehow she's getting kicked out when she's paid 2 days, which she will get refunded. She's just making a point out of having spent money. But it's directly to do with the consequences to the actions that she is doing. She's a problem. She's a danger in public to annoy people and be terrible. So obviously nobody wants her there. But unfortunately, they've just created a TikTok viral clip for her.
And I'm permanently banned. It's pretty f***ed up. We arrived at Crown Towers Hotel maybe
2 hours ago?
less than 2 hours ago, to stay in the hotel for 2 nights for Jack's birthday. 20 minutes ago, we had security knocking on our hotel room door. 3 guys come in, and one guy says, just letting you know you're banned from Crown Towers. And I said, since when? What are you talking about? And he said, since September 2021. So
3 years ago. And we didn't know. You had never even been here, so...
Yeah. No, I can't remember last time I came to Crown.
Probably 3 years ago, Tash. I don't know why she can't compute that in her head. But great, you've ruined your boyfriend's birthday. Well, that's a new one, isn't it? Maybe he's having some second thoughts now, which, I mean, I would be as well, being with someone as divisive as them.
I think I was like 18 years old, maybe the last time I came here to go to the casino. Didn't do anything wrong. There was no incidents whatsoever when I came. I was just having a night out, right?
But apparently you never do anything wrong anyway, Tash. Apparently what you're doing is just spreading the message, isn't it? So you're never doing anything wrong, so you're never doing anything wrong. They should be imploring the fact that you're there. They should be out there clapping, but no, it's because you are terrible. That's why they don't want you there. And it's crazy she can't even see that. But this is definitely not the first time that Tash Peterson has been caught in trouble for doing stuff. She's always entering places, she's always causing problems and wreaking havoc. And she actually recently got community service for doing something like this, and this is her reaction.
I was recently convicted with 3 criminal offences as a result of a protest that I did last year at a restaurant who had banned all vegans from their venue. As a result of these charges, I've been fined $2,500, and also on top of that, I've received a community-based order.
Just note as well, she's on about banning all vegans. The place did ban vegans, which I find ridiculous, but it was because of the hate that Tash Peterson was giving towards them. It was genuinely that bad that the owner decided, right, no vegans at all allowed in the venue because of how she was acting. So she is being a bit disingenuous here.
This order prohibits me from leaving the state of Western Australia for a period of 6 months. So here I am on day 1 doing my community service, and they've sent me out to a farm in rural Western Australia. I'm going to be picking up animal shit digging holes and doing all sorts of farm chores.
Is that not just hilarious that she's doing the one thing that she despises? Looking after animals whilst they're in captivity. Also wearing the weirdest combination of what I would suggest as an outfit of all time with a shovel on the back. You wouldn't tell she's doing any work unless she had that shovel there, would you?
However, this isn't your average farm. In fact, it's the opposite. It's actually a vegan animal sanctuary. The animals here who were destined for murder in the meat, dairy and egg industries are now here to live out their lives free from abuse, exploitation and harm. I'm here to help the animals today, and let's see how we go.
Which I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit at this because, yeah, she's gone to a place that does something like this, which is a good cause, really. But are the animals not still kept captive? Like, are the animals still not in some form of trouble because they have been caught? That's exactly what you're saying in all of your stuff, Tash. So why are you happy to do it here? Because it's a vegan sanctuary. Could I smell a little bit of irony? Why aren't they free? Why aren't they wild? Why can't they just do what they want? It's because that's not how it works in the real world, is it? But obviously she can never see that because she can't see anything that goes on in her life. She just constantly just tarnishes her own reputation. And then when she's doing this community service, she has to take loads of videos to make sure that everyone sees that she's doing it. But thank God she finally got cornered and had to do some service for what she's actually doing. I don't understand that how she manages to have a camera out all day. If like a cameraman film her do it, that's a bit weird to me. But somehow she's trying to turn a community service order, which is something that is quite a bit of a tarnish because you've done something wrong, into a positive for her, which is quite commendable. But what isn't commendable is the way that she pivots and says certain things which I just intentionally use for rage bait, or she genuinely believes, which is even worse. And we got one here where, I'm not even joking, she likens herself to Martin Luther King. You know, the political activist who was incredibly amazing around the segregation of black people in communities in America. For her to even, like, think that she's 1%, like, of this guy is genuinely incredible.
Martin Luther King was criminalised and even jailed for his non-violent protests against racial injustice. Thanks to activists like him, our society has now shifted their views to be in more support of racial equality. Criminalising activists for protesting against oppression is wrong.
I mean, it definitely is. Freedom of speech should be a thing, and it is a thing in quite a lot of societies. The way that it turns and gets a little bit further past that, because what she's insinuating there is that she has been arrested, she's gone through these troubles. It's a totally different thing when you cover yourself in a lot of fake blood with like something that likens really nasty language towards people, just for the fact that they eat meat like the majority of the world. You know, trashing places, posting people on social media and getting them in trouble and making them out to be in this social setting very uncomfortable, and lying about people like we saw in the vets, where she was saying that they were unaliving and eating their own animals that they were looking after because they had two birds at the front. It's totally different to what MLK was doing. So actually insane that she's even taken this comment to try and put a reference out there and to put some sort of equivalence to a girl that goes and does that and then does OF to promote it all. It's genuinely chalk and cheese.
In fact, I have been arrested multiple times for speaking against animal abuse and murder. Today, animal rights activists across the world are criminalised and even jailed for exposing animal abuse and murder in meat, dairy and egg farms and animal exploitation industries. Watch Dominion on YouTube to see the truth.
I feel like at some point she does come across as very shit Andrew Tate. And Andrew Tate's already terrible, so that's an even further level down there. But for her to, for even 1 second, point a equivalence to what she's doing now compared to what was going on in the 60s with all of the injustices is insane. I do understand there's a lot of problems in the meat industry, but the way of this political activism of why she's getting arrested because she's doing illegal things. That's literally why she's doing it. It's why she's had community orders sent against her. She's been terrible. So the idea that she's not in the wrong whatsoever and she's actually fighting for injustices perfectly well and fine without ignoring all of the morality of what she was saying just makes me piss. What a loser. She also managed to get into a little bit of a drama with someone called Sniperwolf, which I'm sure everyone has heard of. I covered her a lot on my channel in the past, where she was basically doxing another creator. She's another terrible creator herself that does terrible reaction content. And she reacted to Tash Peterson. And you can guess how this is going to go. Two terrible people talking to each other. What's going to happen?
Animal abuse.
I can't show her, but she's literally covered in red paint. I paused it at the perfect moment and the employee's face right there. Girl, same.
So that's not red paint, it's actually my period blood. I'm using my own bodily autonomy.
What? Well, if I thought I couldn't show that before, I'm definitely not going to show it now. That is genuinely insane. That obviously that can't be true. That can't, surely. I hope to God that is not true, because the idea of someone collecting that to then put it on their body and then wipe it across other people is genuinely, like, unfathomably insane to me. But yeah, it has to be for attention, that, but oh my God, like, just the thought of that actually being something, it's not something, I can't, my head's gone.
I'm using my own bodily autonomy to speak up for those who have no bodily autonomy, non-human animals who are subjected to exploitation, slavery, abuse, and murder because of non-vegans.
I've noticed as well, she started saying that at the end of it like it's some sort of like catchphrase that she's got going on. Once again, it's not sticking, it's only going to cause problems, and it's not something that would ever turn anyone onto looking into the sort of problems that these animals do face by just being stupid about it. You're never going to win an argument or get up higher on a pedestal or even get people to understand you if you act like this.
Okay, I'm gonna say this now. There's nothing wrong with being a vegan. People can do whatever they want in their own personal life as long as they're not hurting anybody. I like chicken nuggets. I like steak. I'm going to eat meat.
It's interesting that Sniperwolf actually said earlier, people can do whatever they want as long as no one's hurt. And now here she is saying she can do whatever she wants if she wants to eat animals and exploit animals in other ways by consuming dairy products, eating eggs.
Yeah, but that was about humans, wasn't it? It wasn't about non-human people, as you say. Obviously, it has to be Sniperwolf to back the corner, like I said, and we will go through a couple. She does talk about these sort of problems with kids a lot because it's very easy to knock off because the kids have obviously got stupid arguments. And here's Sniperwolf with another one. I love chicken nuggies. I'm sure you do. Me too. But I just wish she'd get into her head that, yeah, understanding that there are problems in the meat industry is important, but the way that you go about it is not like this.
Remember the other day? I gave you some duck. You are also responsible for the murder of ducks. How does it feel? No comment.
Well, actually, I'm pretty sure you were responsible for the murder of those ducks since you went to the supermarket, paid for that product, that flesh of an animal, which directly paid the farmers and slaughterhouse workers to abuse and murder that animal to feed to your dog when your dog could be on a plant-based diet. It's so simple. You don't need to use animals for yourself or your dog.
Now, I'm going to claim ignorance here, but I know that having a plant-based diet for a dog must be very, very hard and expensive to get the right amount of protein in. Also, not to mention all of the macros that are involved in that, such as they need this flesh, they do. And now we're at a point where we've got Tash Peterson coming at a dog. Coming at a dog because it's easier to come at a dog than it is an actual human being about this stuff. I just don't think she has a clue, and I feel like she's somewhat slightly disconnected to what a normal person is like. Bear in mind as well, like, she earned 400 grand in 21-22. She has a lot of money that is disposable. So her vegan diet probably does consist of a lot of very high quality food. Meanwhile, the average person who's going paycheck to paycheck, they're not going to think for 1 second about skipping this 20p like meat like dish replacement so that they can have a £1 vegan meal, especially when they're much less nutritious. And it's the same for kids. It's a very expensive thing to do to become vegan. It really is at this point. Not necessarily breaking the bank, and it does help for some people to do it, like for example on certain days. I remember one of my friends used to only eat vegetarian stuff on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that helped. But the blanket idea of we need to stop everything we're doing now because you are disgusting and you need to stop being disgusting, it never helped anyone. Like, imagine if you went into a therapy session and you were talking to the psychiatrist about your problems and they were just like, you're disgusting, you need to stop this now. How would that ever help you? No, you talk about it because you go through the rationale of things, and you try to understand, and if you don't understand, it doesn't work. And something that she does say at the end of a lot of her videos is watch Dominion, which is a animal slaughterhouse video, which is easy to find through her link tree. And like, yeah, that does highlight some of the problems in the industry, but also the fact that you just say watch Dominion, no context whatsoever. Who's gonna watch it? She genuinely doesn't have a clue how the world works. So I'm glad she responded to Sniperwolf, and realistically, I wish she never did. And now we need to look at some of the other stuff she does in her responses, because they are stupid, as we've gone through. Quite a lot of these are stupid, and the way that she approaches it is bad, and also the way that she presents it through her approaching it is also terrible as well, because what she does a lot of the times is she goes out in public talking to literal children and teenagers whilst also having this banana with a mic, because obviously that's funny, innit? No, she uses the banana with the mic because it's promoting OF. That's what a lot of these promotions for OF do. So she's going around talking to kids with this outright promotion for OF, which is weird to me. There's nothing wrong with doing OF or promoting OF in normal ways and avenues, but this is not a way to promote it. Talking to kids is not really the optics that you think you want, but she talks to kids because they're the easiest ones to break down. They're the easiest ones to own for social media clips, which then get all of the attention, which then lead to the OF. And of course, nothing wrong on OF creators. Just don't do this and then also do your tax returns and say that you only made 70 grand when you actually made 400. But we got a couple of these now, and I think we need to see how terrible she really is.
They just shoot them and then they'll slit their throat and let them bleed out. It's hard to watch, but it's very important to watch if you're not vegan, because this is what you're supporting if you're not vegan. And I'll end it there because it's very graphic.
Like, why is she saying this sort of vile things in front of kids? Like, it's so evidently weird, and also she's filming it whilst also filming it. What is she doing? Like, it just seems so inconsiderate to the actual people that are there, and it's not reading a room correctly. I find it grim.
But I feel like if you're growing, you're still a teenager, you still need to eat meat and dairy to grow.
No, because you can actually get all nutrients and protein from a plant-based diet.
Well, if my parents are feeding me this food, it's a lot of money to become vegan.
No, actually, the world's cheapest foods are actually plant-based vegan foods. Now you're saying my parents are feeding me this. What would you do if your parents put a dog on your plate? Would you eat them? No. Would you eat them?
Such stupid argument. Obviously you wouldn't eat it, but obviously you wouldn't eat it because you're not being fed it. That's not something in our Western culture that is normalised, so obviously we're not going to do that. It's the exact same as they just got a pig and just slabbed it on there for you to cut out of. Obviously you're not going to eat from it. This kid is clearly saying as well, like, this is my parents, like, my parents give me the food and it's very expensive. She's like, oh no, it's the cheapest. It's not the cheapest at all. Might be a bit different in America, but in the UK, if you go and you search for vegan stuff, because the demand is much lower, the price is higher. It's simple economics. And I implore you, if you really do want to invest time into it, look at how much difference it would be for you to get the same sort of macros, so the same protein, carbs and fat, from something that's vegan compared to something that is meat. And I think you'll find you'll have a much more expensive experience. And the only reason she's picking on teenagers here is because it's easy. She knows she can do a quick gotcha, so your parents are the problem. Your parents are the disgusting, vile people. So are you, because you're accepting eating it. Like, no, maybe I just want to be fed. And these stupid arguments from her obviously just keep coming.
How are we animal?
I'll show you.
They're not lambs, actually. I think you need to get your animals right. They're called pigs. Do you know
I said I'm showing you.
Do you know the difference between a lamb and a pig?
I said I'm showing you slaughterhouse footage.
You said you're showing me a lamb.
No, I said slaughterhouse footage.
Oh, look, it's a pig. It's a dick. Lol.
Like, obviously the kid's taking the mick here, but it's a literal child. Like, he's like below 12 years old. And what you're doing is you're in public without any sort of parental supervision. You're giving this kid a video of an animal being like unalived. Like, what? That is so crazy to me. Like, that is so wrong. Obviously the kid in this instant is not bothered at all, but it's something that's so, like, desensitized for you to even think about showing. To the wrong child, that could literally scar them and leave them in, like, mental trouble for weeks because of that. Like, why would you even think about doing that? She's so grim, and it really does put a terrible precedent on the actual vegans that are normal.
Scream.
No, they're actually oinking. They don't really scream.
Is someone actually laughing at animals suffocating to
It's kind of funny.
Why is it funny?
Why didn't you get a job?
Are you a psychopath?
No, I think you are. I think you're a bit mentally ill because it's normal for humans to have meat, mate.
And like, you see what she's doing here. She's intentionally kept these people in because they are just being ridiculous. They are giving terrible examples, but the reason why they are is because she's being so horrible herself. Like I said around this entire video, like, when you talk to someone like shit, they're going to teach you a lesson and say the exact same sort of energy back to you. It's genuinely insane to me. It really is that she would even show something like that to a child. Like, I understand that they need to understand it, but also that's terrible. And a good example is like someone in my family watched at 8 years old a documentary that was similar to this, and it scarred them for life and they've not eaten meat since, which is like a good, like, positive thing for the environment, but like, it scarred them mentally. We shouldn't be getting into these sort of problems and fixing them by literally scarring people mentally with the realities of this sort of thing. Education goes a long way, arrogance definitely doesn't.
You can't just come and call us abusers, though.
Why not?
Because it's not nice.
You force animals into slaughterhouses. That's not nice.
Into slaughterhouses?
You pay for it.
No, they do it. I don't.
That means you're vegan.
I wouldn't say that.
If someone had a human flesh sandwich, would you call them a human abuser?
Nah, it's cannibalism.
Is cannibalism human abuse?
Yeah, you could say that.
If someone's eating a cow or a chicken or a pig burger, is that cow, chicken, or pig abuse?
Adding the equivalence all the time of the animals being the exact same to humans is just, it's not true. I'm a meat eater, and although I do find the slaughterhouses terrible and stuff, what she is doing is she's directly saying that if you are eating meat, you are doing that act, and you're literally not. You are allowing someone to do that for you, essentially, and you are desensitized to that fact, but you're not the person that is actually doing it. So for her to be like this, to try and push these people off, and as he said at the start, he was like, there's no need to be calling us abusers, because yeah, there isn't. What you've done is something that's ignorant that is then going to turn the person away from you. So you have successfully, Tash Peterson, once again turned someone who would potentially maybe be open to the idea of even trying veganism away to just think that you're a creep. And as an activist that just wants people to turn to it, it doesn't seem like you're being very generous in that area.
Nah, they eat dog over in like Taiwan and stuff.
Because it's part of someone's culture, it's not abuse.
Yeah.
Some cultures practice cannibalism, so that means it's not abuse because it's part of their culture to eat human.
Yeah.
They can do what makes you feel funny.
Yeah.
Just once again, it's not the same thing, and it really does annoy me that she thinks in this certain way to try and push people onto it. It doesn't help. She also uploaded on a TikTok a clip of her being kicked out of another venue once again because she can't stop getting kicked out of venues. Bear in mind there's loads of kids around here, as you can see in the clip, and just see how she's acting.
This is what happens when you speak out against animal abuse and injustice. This is what happens when you speak up for animals who have no voice. Have you ever watched inside a Bobby Calf slaughterhouse? Yeah, we're ready to go. We came to talk up for the animals. We appreciate that you have to get rid of us. We're here to speak up for these poor babies. If they're males, they'll get their because they can't make milk. Research Bobby Calf, now you're the problem.
Just her and her entourage screaming like this in public really weirds me out. With the fact that there are so many kids around, like, it's the same sort of thing as why wouldn't you show an unaliving documentary to a child? Maybe because it's not a very good thing to do. Kids have very sensitive brains, so shouting this sort of stuff down is not only a little bit of indoctrination, but it's also terrible and morally very unjust. And she just keeps going at it and keeps doing it and double tripling down on it, and that's what weirds me out with her. There's much better ways of handling this sort of stuff, especially if you've got such an online platform like she does. She could be handling it in such a better way, which would then bring a lot more people to it. Another example that I did find is that she was hanging around a KFC and she talked about bodybuilders because a guy was making a bodybuilding argument because protein, and it's actually fucking hilarious the way that and the examples that she uses.
You think this guy here, right?
What?
You think he becomes the muscular man that he is from eating snail food? No.
Have you seen plant-based athletes?
Plant-based athletes, they're f***ing weak as shit. This guy knocks out people for a living.
Weak as shit.
Which realistically I can only laugh at, because the examples that she's used here, vegan 8 years and 6 years, and well, These are all bodybuilders, yes, and none of them look remotely real. In bodybuilding, there is a massive, massive thing that a lot of people do where they take steroids and take certain pills and things that will make them stronger, bigger. And I'm not going to lie, I see these three sort of people with these physiques and they all look not real. Apart from maybe the guy on the right. These sort of natural physiques are either massively, massively brought up by using things like this, or it is just natural selection. Some people are just very lucky to have these sort of builds. So she has a good point in that, yeah, you can actually be a bodybuilder, for example, and you can just be purely vegan, but using these sort of examples, actually quite hilarious. It's like whenever she tries to prove herself, she always uses something which really does just turn the screw on its head and make it seem like everything that you're saying is just bullshit. One of the things she also does around cows getting milked is say that they are getting the R word, you know, the R charge. Despite saying this, cows can actually really go through some serious problems if they're not milked properly. But apparently they're getting R-worded because of something that they just do and need to have done, which to me is the daftest thing possible.
Well, yeah, all forms of farming unfortunately do cause environmental destruction. However, animal agriculture is the leading cause of environmental destruction. So would you rather have almond milk or dairy milk where a mother cow was the babies were kidnapped from, males were shot in the head?
Oh, by who? Who's animals?
Farmers. Did you know that?
Well, no, obviously they're not. And actually, I think you'll find in a lot of farms as well, the cows actually like it happening. It's just such a dull and null argument for her to even try and get around and explain to people. And I find it ridiculous. And all this pivoting does really come to a head and she does get called out for it sometimes. But she never really uploads it because she'll cut it off so people don't see it. And one of the things that she does get caught out of is the slavery thing where she goes on and says that all animals are going through this sort of thing, just ignoring, you know, the entire problem at hand, skirting over the actual issues and then just going to this. Like I said, she tries with absolutely everything that she does to make it equivalent to a human and a human going through this action, which definitely isn't the same thing at all. Obviously animals still have emotions and this sort of thing, but it does lead her to get caught out a little bit.
Once human slavery had been done for hundreds of years. Once women...
Excuse me, hello everybody. Let me just get my own POV on this situation.
Does that make it okay to continue doing it?
I wonder how this lady brings slavery, human slavery, into thing.
It's such an important point though, like, how does she do that? It just baffles me. It's not the same thing remotely, so for her to even bring it up and give an equivalence there when there is seen so much more harm, it's actually just so disingenuous to the other causes, as well as being disingenuous to the actual thing that's going on and the problems. And like I said with Tash as well, she does a lot of this, and it's all just so jarring, to be honest. And the thing that does really piss me off the most is the way that she is so dismissive to everyone. And not only that, she goes on to name call. Literally name call, and she does it multiple times, but there's one clip that I did find that she uploaded recently where she's doing it to a kid, and it's just the most childish fucking thing ever. Making this shouting match literally be on a level with each other, despite the kid being so much younger than her.
The cow seems to be fine with it because she's just standing there.
Yeah, and her babies are kidnapped from her and she cries. You're going to ride away like a little coward, little psychopath coward animal.
Am I a psychopath coward?
Yeah, you literally couldn't answer any of my questions. Yeah, and what's wrong with that? Say it to my face.
You're a sore.
And you... Okay.
Like, she was name calling first before he started name calling. And it has turned into just an embarrassing, childish shouting match, like I say, but she has started this. She has created this. Like, yeah, maybe the kid's not answering, but maybe the kid just thinks you're a fucking idiot. He's already got a preconceived notion of what you like because he's seen the sort of stuff that you're doing on TikTok and he doesn't like it. So why are you trying to peck at him? And then you start calling him names like he's not 12. What a way to win an argument. And it shows why she only talks to kids, because she can't even win an argument with a kid.
Because you post your body so you can make some Indian wank off to it.
You're actually disgusting.
Don't drop out of school, buddy.
You're never going to get a girlfriend. You're going to be a little
virgin for the rest of your life if you speak to women like that. You're disgusting. You never talk to women like that. You're fucking disgusting.
Like, yeah, obviously what the kid said was disgusting, and it was very ignorant to what it actually is, but at the same time, the child is 12, and I'm almost certain by the time he gets a bit older, he won't be acting like that. And this clip is a couple of minutes long, so she's building it up. She's asking him questions and calling him horrible for a couple of minutes, then have that blow off top of just calling him names, and that's when he starts calling her names. But how low do you have to get to not only do this sort of thing, but also download that video from your VOD, then upload it on Instagram as a reel with loads of captions and stuff because you think you've owned this guy? The kid's 12. The kid's a idiot, but the kid's 12. Meanwhile, you're an adult woman who can really look after herself. Or at least you'd hope you could, because it doesn't seem that you can. Honestly, her boyfriend at this part said you should stick to school, buddy, and I think Tash probably could do with the same, because then she'd understand you're never going to win a shouting match. And you're also never going to bring people over doing what you're doing. Tash does just astound me with how she is, and I think even though she's been slapped with this £280,000 fine, she's not going to stop doing what she's doing, and she's still going to be divisive. My hopes would be that in a little bit of time she kind of does understand that what she's doing actually isn't helping. It's the same problem that we see in a lot of the videos that I cover, where the 1% or the 0.1% are ruining it for the 99% of people who are actually in that sort of fandom, that era, that culture, and they're seeing this and they're thinking this is horrible as well. You're never going to convert people by being ignorant and rude. But what do you lot think? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed, please do hit the like and sub. I would love to see you back once again. I've been Jake Baz, and I'll see you later. Take care.